Welcome. This is Chip Roasting.
I'm Wally.
I am somebody. I'm Brennan. I'm not Brennan. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. We're roasting some chips.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
It has been some time.
Yes, it has.
It's been 4 months and 4 days since the last time we recorded.
Yep. This is what this podcast is gonna be. We weren't behind schedule. We just changed the schedule to 3 times a year. So bringing you always the most up to date coverage.
Yeah,
at all times.
Absolutely. So we're gonna start with news from 4 months. No, I'm kidding.
I do think there was one podcast where there was like a gap between the one we were doing and the last one. So we were like, oh, we'll run through the news. It took us like 2 hours to get through news or something.
And that was like all we did.
Never doing that again here.
No, it's I think that was the last podcast. I think that was
that makes sense. Yep.
What happened in that time? Brennan's married now.
Oh,
so
yep.
Congratulations to Brennan and his wife.
Thank you.
Who's somewhere in the room. I don't know if she can hear me or not, but
nah, she's headphones on. She's doing her own thing here.
Gotcha. But yeah, and I went to China. That's something I did.
Very nice.
So very busy 4 month. Probably.
We've been out there living our own lives here.
Yeah. We've just podcast on the back burner, but so there's two things we want to talk about today.
Yes,
and they're both Star Wars related because we haven't talked about the Bad Batch yet, season 3.
No, we've not.
And then the Acolyte has come out since we've last recorded a podcast. So quite frankly, lots to go.
Episode.
Every episode.
Every episode of the Acolyte season 1 released on like a week-to-week basis over the span of like 7 weeks here has aired. So instead of us, talking about any one episode individually, we're just gonna talk about
the whole
all
thing
of them together. Yeah.
I'm so glad we got away from what we used to do, where we'd describe every single episode in detail. Like we'd go scene by scene.
Yep. That was I don't know why we ever thought that was a good idea, but
I don't know.
It launched us up to the number 3 spot in some very specific categories for certain countries somehow. So
it did.
To our adoring fans, we thank you very much for sticking with us through all of that nonsense and all of this ongoing nonsense as well.
Yes, thank you, Matt, specifically. I think it's obvious we should probably start with the Bad Batch, unless you want to go in chronological order in the Star Wars universe. We could start with the
release order versus chronological. Let's go ahead and start with the Bad Batch here. I can't remember a lot of specifics because of the amount of time it's been, but I can very clearly remember all of my feelings towards the Bad Batch season 3 as a whole. So,
yes. I to be honest, I don't remember where we left off with the I think we had talked about a couple episodes with the Bad Batch.
We had talked about I think roughly the first half. I think there were 16 episodes in total. We were about at the 8 episode mark. I don't remember if we were right before or right after, but we're right around there. I know episode 9 was the one where Asajj Ventress makes her appearance here. I don't think we've talked about that one.
Oh my god. So to reference, the only thing we talked about last episode was news and Madam Web. So I don't even think we talked about the Bad Batch at all.
The Bad Batch. Okay.
No, because in the episode before that was Echo and Percy Jackson, which I still haven't finished.
Oh, okay.
So we have not talked about any of the Bad Batch.
And you know what? Looping back to Percy Jackson for a moment, which I know is no longer topical whatsoever because that show has been concluded for like half a calendar year. But I have been going back and reading through the original series through audiobook most of the time. It's something I can just put on in the car while driving. It does not require a lot of focus here because it has that very slow kids show or kids book pacing here.
Sure.
but it's been fun. I've enjoyed the reads or listens or whatever. The narrator of the audiobooks, not my favorite voice actor of all time. It's fine. You can get past some of the stuff here. But the way the books are written and the information is delivered here, and how they take their time to introduce all of the characters, all of the gods, all of like the different elements of the world. Like I really admire that kind of approach. And looking back at Percy Jackson's season 1, I'm like, they crammed too many characters into that show. There are all these gods. I'm on the Battle of the Labyrinth right now, where like he meets Hephaestus for the first time. Yeah, it's book number 4. And like in season 1, he's like already met Hephaestus there, and Hephaestus was like a different character than he is in the book, which like they can do their own thing. That's totally fine. I just feel like they're kind of hurting themselves in the future here by like moving too fast now, getting too much like set up and created in world now for it to be like satisfying later on. That was just like a take that I thought of when listening to the audio books here. But
it's interesting because, and I mean, I think this might happen with a lot of different adaptations of books, especially like longer series, is that you don't know how long the show is going to last. Like, so you're just trying to shove as much as you can into whatever you have. So if you're like, all right, you're guaranteed 1 season, all right, well, fine, we'll shove as much as we can into this 1 season, and if we get more, we'll figure it out later. So, I think that happened with what was it? It was it's a Lee Bardugo book. It was on Netflix. I can't remember the name of the series.
Interesting.
But there's like 3 different series in the universe that's written as books, and they took 2 of those books and like they crammed them into the first season, or like 2 of those series and crammed them into 1 season. So it's gonna bother me now what book series it is, but like, you only have so much time to, you only know that you have this much time to use, so you might as well use as much as you can. Shadow and Bone. That's what it was. The Shadow and Bone series.
I've heard of that. I haven't ever read it or watched it here, but
it was all the craze in 2020, which is when I started reading again. And so I listened to the audiobooks. The audiobooks were good. I enjoyed them, but I didn't listen to the second series that was included in the show. But yeah, so that's probably why they did that, because we have 1 season, we don't know if we'll get a second. So speaking of third seasons,
yes,
Bad Batch.
Moving back to what we were going to talk about first here,
we haven't missed a step. We are still all over the place.
And that's the chip roasting guarantee.
The Bad Batch.
So I will just start off by saying, now that I know we haven't talked about this season at all yet, I love this season absolutely. Oh, yeah. I thought it was phenomenal in terms of Star Wars animation. I think it was some of the best work they have ever done here, in both the overall show style and the story itself here. The only criticism or complaint that I've seen where I'm like, yeah, that's valid here, is just that like over the course of the 3 seasons, the arc was like the exact same each time. It was like, hey, the Empire's after Omega here, the Bad Batch has to protect her, and that was like the story throughout everything. There was no evolution or change in that dynamic here. So valid complaint, but like I did not mind that at all. I thought it was great. There was only like maybe like 1 or 2 episodes of season 3 that like I didn't connect with immediately here. For the vast majority of the episodes, I love them from start to finish. Everything they did especially with the last couple of episodes there, including like the finale, there was such an emotional stake.
Mm-hmm.
And it one thing that separated it from a lot of the other Star Wars shows that I know I've commented on before here is like when there's a Jedi in the mix, usually have a pretty good feeling like, hey, everyone's gonna make it, everyone's gonna be fine here. When it's just a bunch of clones fighting this very sophisticated, like fascist organization, like being, the Empire here, and we know the Empire will survive on for 19 years,
Right.
and we don't know anything about these characters after this moment here. You have this very bad feeling in your gut the entire time, like, oh, they're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's like they did so much with like those stakes, that tension. um Jumping to the finale here, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it,
It's
but
been several months.
yeah, but like when they're fighting like the evil, like Bad Batch clones, and they get their like, and they're beat by them completely initially, and Crosshair's held down and they cut off Crosshair's hand. I was like, oh, that was brutal. And like it was, there was nothing about the show that like really felt fake, or the writers were having to hold a lot back. It felt very grounded.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, I think this did a really good job of showing the brutality of the Empire. Like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
they didn't pull their punches. Like they would. I mean, this goes back to I think it was beginning of season 1 or season 2 when he pushed that one trooper off a cliff, or like shot him in the head or something
Yeah.
like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. This is how the Empire works.
Yep.
I do, and I mean, I know we saw some of the ruthlessness from Darth Vader and Darth Sidious and stuff like that, but I like in the movies, but I don't think we've ever seen that. Like even in the, I mean, you've seen it a little bit in the books, like we've not seen that on screen at all. Really,
Mm-hmm.
just how absolutely ruthless the Empire is.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that in Rebels here,
Yeah,
especially
a little bit.
the time with Thrawn, but like in Rebels too, it kind of like at times they would pull their punches back a little bit. You'd be reminded that there was that like uh kid show logic that
Yeah,
most of Star Wars as a whole has, and I'm sure there was that in like the in the Bad Batch here as well. But at the same time, it didn't felt like they were leaning into that or relying on that. It felt very uh realistic here, and they felt very much like these three-dimensional characters.
yeah. I definitely think like the kid show thing, and it being on Disney Channel, they definitely had to hold back a little bit. But this is on the Disney streaming service, and I mean,
Yep.
even from like the Marvel shows, I mean, some of them have been a little, they're not been this brutal, but like they have a lot longer leash.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I agree with everything you said so far, and I think they took a lot from the other shows that they've done. The when Omega was trapped with those other kids, I mean, it's a little reminiscent of the scenes from
Yeah.
Andor, um,
Ooh, yeah.
where they were in the factory. So like, I definitely think they took some of the best elements from other shows, and they've learned a lot, and they were able to put it in here and not feel like it was like a complete copy and paste into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and I really like where it left everything. The show like really tied everything up really nicely, and I think it sent Omega on a good path. And I'd love to see more of Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Growing Omega, and kind of see what her story leads to in
Yeah.
the fight against the Empire.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is like, I know a bunch of shows have ended in the time of this podcast, but this is the first show that's like began and ended and has like felt really satisfying in my opinion,
Yes.
especially
Yeah,
with
I'll
multi seasons.
absolutely say that as well, especially just in the world of like the Star Wars animated projects,
Mhm.
because like Clone Wars obviously had a rough kind of run where like it was like season 5 was gonna be the last season, so like those last episodes were like the finale, and then it got like season 6, and those episodes were the finale, and it got season 7, I think, was like the final one where that was actually more of a proper finale where it went to episode 3 of the Star Wars movies fully there. But like it always just kind of leaves so much open. And then with Rebels, there is that finale and a definite end to the series, but because of where it leaves off with all the characters, it's like this isn't the end of that story at all.
Which,
and
which we got with Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, yeah, absolutely. Ahsoka / Rebels season 5,
which still isn't over. I mean, they still had loose ends, like they haven't tied everything up there. But
yeah, exactly. But with the Bad Batch, even though there is that open plot thread of what will Omega move on to, especially now that she's kind of canonically left to join the Rebel Alliance here, it does feel like that story as a whole has concluded. It's like there's no real need to see Hunter or Wrecker or Crosshair ever again. Like it would be neat to potentially, but like all of their arcs are concluded. We are good to kind of move past that story here, and it felt very, very satisfying in a way that Star Wars hasn't really felt satisfying in a while here.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly just due to there are these characters that are brought through, and like you see them in all these different places, and you have to like keep them going. I mean, like we have an end to some of the clones. I can't remember who, like Wolf. Is it Wolf?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then Commander Cody, and so they show up in not Cody.
Well, yeah. Although there is Cody as well, it kind of goes off at some point.
Yeah.
Who knows what becomes of him after that? But
and we see them in Rebels. There's 3 of the clones. I can't remember who they were. Remember they were in Rebels on that one planet. But like
there was Rex,
there's still
Wolf, and one Rex. More. I think.
And there's still like a huge chunk of their story to tell. But and we have a beginning and we have an end. But finally, I think finally with the Bad Batch we have it. We have the beginning and we have the end now, and I think it was very satisfying.
Yeah.
It's really, really good show. Phenomenal show, and some of the best storytelling I think Star Wars has done so far. And they're just killing it in the animated medium.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, here we have since received official confirmation that a new Star Wars animated project is in the works here.
Yep.
There have been rumors it'll focus on Rex and the other clones after the events of the Bad Batch. There are rumors it'll focus on Asajj Ventress's appearance in the Bad Batch. Kind of what's happened to her, what's kind of caused her to be alive here still, what she's doing next. And those are the 2 main like actual rumors now, but there's also a lot of desire from Star Wars fans for animated stories in other time periods. There does seem to be this opinion that Star Wars has spent so much focus on like the Clone Wars time frame after the Clone Wars time frame, and not really made a significant effort to expand out much past the prequel and original trilogies. So what would your dream next animated project be for Star Wars here?
So I like 2. I like the idea of a Rex and clones. I mean, I really like that idea, just kind of like tie up their loose ends, because like this is like the first time we've seen what has happened to the clones post Order 66. And then we know Rex is out there fighting, and we know he potentially at the Battle of Yavin Or no, not the Battle of Yavin. No, the Battle of Endor.
Oh,
and so like we kind of know where he goes, but there's still this huge chunk of time that we don't really know anything about. And I like Rex as a character, so I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. Cause I'm not sure if canonically, because there's been like that rumor like, going around forever that like Rex is in the Battle of Endor because there's that one rebel soldier who was like weird like Rex had, but I think in Legends that was confirmed to be someone else who was not Rex, and I don't know if like in the new canon that's still true or if it is Rex or if it's just like like a headcanon here or what. But yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't know if it's ever been disproven or proven. I'd have to go and like search, but I've not been in the big Star Wars reading mood lately. That's changed after watching the Acolyte, but we'll get to that. But yeah, dream show. I would love if they were to continue on with Star Wars Resistance. I actually really like that show. Most people didn't like that show and or just never watched it. They got all the way up until they destroyed the planets in episode 7. That's about as far as I got because I got 2 seasons in.
Interesting.
I believe we were supposed to Cardinal in that. No, maybe not Cardinal, but there was another Phasma type person in that show. I can't remember who it was. But it was a good show. I enjoyed it. It's just, but like if they were to bring that back, I'd want them to kind of go again, kind of like the way they have with the Bad Batch and stuff like that. And when they brought back Clone Wars, it's just kind of like go towards more of a darker route and kind of show more action with that particular group of people against the First Order, or just a show taking place. It's like basically Clone Wars, but for the prequel, for the sequel trilogy, or if they could adapt one of the books as a TV show, that'd probably be my dream there. I guess it's just probably a continuation of Resistance. I really like that show.
I probably need to check out Resistance here.
It's short. It's 2 seasons. It's like
okay.
Yeah, it's an easy watch. It's definitely a lot more shy. It's like Clone Wars is like, so it's like Bad Batch is like super. It's like for children, but like not really. Clone Wars is for children, but a little not really. Rebels is like a little bit more for children, and then there's Resistance.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's like not like a ton of like interaction with the First Order, like directly, but like it does come up a lot.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's a good show, but definitely not everyone's cup of tea. But what about you? What would you like to see?
Yeah, because coming from me here, I would like I'm probably aligned with the train of thought of like we just need to move away from like the prequel trilogy stuff and the original trilogy stuff. I'd most likely enjoy seeing something that takes place around the sequel trilogy time. I've never seen Resistance. Like I can't speak exactly to the hole that fills or does not fill here. Something that would be neat to see is maybe like right smack in the middle of like between episodes 6 and 7 here of Luke trying to recreate the Jedi Order.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Because like that's something we haven't seen at all. So maybe like have that be the focus, and in the background, you're watching like the First Order rise up. I'm not entirely sure if that would serve well as an animated project as opposed to something a live action here. But as I don't think we're gonna get anything really along the live action lines,
it would just be Luke.
Yeah. Yep.
We're always getting to the point where our man Mark Hamill is just like almost too old.
Yeah, which like it kind of sucks because like who they had is like the body double CGI stand-in for him during his 2 appearances. Looks exactly like Mark Hamill did at that age. So like if Disney really wanted to, they could just recast him as the guy that they've already had stand in for him. But
and then they can have Mark Hamill overdub it because he's a voice actor. So I mean,
or just literally have
don't do that.
This guy speak, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Because who needs? Because like it wasn't even like Mark Hamill's voice in like the appearances. It was like a computer rendered whatever. It's like that's too much work. Don't. Why would you even do that? So yeah, I would say something from that time period. I'm not really sure how you could make that as a kid show, because we kind of know how it ends, that like everything established by Luke in that time period will fall apart. The First Order will rise to power. So it kind of seems not satisfying to do a story there. But we do have like the Clone Wars, like that's what's gonna happen after the Clone Wars as well.
Well, and then season 7 was just gut wrenching. I mean, like the end of that, like those last 4 episodes are like they're brutal. I actually think that'd be a really good idea for a TV show, because I mean, you take that and then you can adapt some of the stories that are in the books. Like I think there's the Rise of Kylo Ren, which is kind of, I mean, you could do that at the end, adapt that from the comic books, and then then that could lead into another series where he becomes a Knight of Ren and whatnot. But there's also it's called Shadow of the Sith. It's a really, really good book that takes place when Luke is like in the middle of him in the middle of him and training these Jedi. Him and Lando gone in this adventure, and we learn a lot about Ochi of Bestoon and the Sith that had with the blade in episode 9. It adds so much context to episode 9, that book, and then animating that would be really cool. I think animation wise, I think it'd be a lot like the Clone Wars, where they go off on adventures and they do maybe 3 episode arcs. They help this planet, this planet is in distress and whatnot. I actually think that'd be really, really good for an animated TV show.
Sweet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That'd be awesome. But yeah, I think they keep going down the rabbit hole of between 3 and 4, for content. It's because there's so much to fill in. Like there was nothing. Sorry, like what? Like 3 years ago, they had nothing between there, and now we have 3-4 shows that fill in the blank. We have the Tales of the Empire, which I've not watched. I need to. We have Obi-Wan or Kenobi. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then we have the Bad Batch, and we have Andor. Like they're finally like filling in the gaps. And of course we had Lando. Oh, and of course we had Solo, and we had Rogue One, but like that was still like really close to the end. And we have Rebels.
Yep.
But like even still, there's still a lot of gaps, and so I think they're going back and filling in those gaps, and I think they've done a good job of it. Now people are like, all right, great, give us something else, because there's still like you said, there's gaps to fill between 6 and 7.
Yep.
Which I think they'll get there. So.
Yeah. Something else that would be neat to see as well. I know there are already there's already a lot of books and other stories that take place around this time period, but just anything before episode 1 would be great to see as well, or even between episodes 1 and 2. The latter I'd probably want to stay a little away from, because there already is a lot that takes place during that time. But as we've seen with the Acolyte here, still a lot of stories that can be told right
absolutely
around that time frame.
Yeah, Star Wars is such a vast universe. Like you can tell stories forever. Like they're never like the Star Wars will exist long after we're both deceased. I mean, our great grandchildren will be reading and watching Star Wars. I mean, it's timeless. I mean, and there's just so much you can do in that universe, both inside and outside the Skywalker saga. And they're finally starting to experiment a little bit outside the Skywalker saga, which is opening up even more.
Yeah. with that said, would we like to move on to talking about the Acolyte now, or are there any other
this is a good transition. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
So
yeah, the Acolyte.
I want to talk about this in chunks if we can. I want to talk about the first 4 episodes and then the last 3, because I think that's kind of where like people change their tune. Or maybe
the first 4 and like
is it 4 or is it 3?
It's 4.
Oh yeah, so like the first half, the second half, so the first 4, second 4.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people started to change their tune after the first 4, because the first 4 did not get rave reviews.
Yeah, and because I will say the Acolyte as a whole, I've seen a lot of negative backlash to online. I've seen like I said, a lot of outright hate, which personally, like the first 3 episodes I thought were a little slow. I thought the pacing was kind of all over the place for the first like 3 episodes. The first half of episode 4 I felt the same as well. The last half of 4 onward throughout the whole show I thought was fantastic, and so much stuff that they had set up in the first 3.5 paid off so well as the show continued. So I think from a story making perspective here, it's not perfect, but it's really, really good, and it's a lot better than like the average of the Star Wars content we've gotten. And most of the hate, even the hate for the first 3 episodes, I didn't necessarily enjoy here. Like that, the hate was unwarranted completely, because most people had problems with very different things than what I had. Problems with.
Your standard. Yeah. Your standard Star Wars fan, your standard like racist, sexist Star Wars fan was having themselves a ball during these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a season 2 so bad. I'm not optimistic about getting one because of all the outright hate for the show that I've seen online here. But before we get too much into like why I want a season 2 and what people are saying about the end and all that, we can start by focusing just on the first 4, and then we'll move into the second 4.
Yeah, I don't know. They made episode 9, and episode 8 got a lot of hate, so I think they may not care.
True.
And episode 9 got even more, and yet here they are still making content for Star Wars. So like they obviously they have to take it. They have to take the information and run with it, but like also they could also just not give a shit. So okay, yeah. So the first block of 4 episodes. I don't know why I said this. I don't remember what was in what episode, but I think the biggest thing that people had a problem with, like, with even in the first scene, is that like, oh, this person killed a Jedi with swords or with like daggers. I'm just like,
yeah,
that's a stupid thing to have an opinion about. But like, so like the premise of the show is like, or like the way it was set up is that this girl is training under someone, we don't know who, just someone. She doesn't even know who.
Yeah, and we don't even know who she is yet, because it like focuses on like this character, and then we see that character in like the next scene. The character's like, I wasn't there, and we're like, what's going on?
Yeah. And basically, she's trying to kill these Jedi for a particular reason. Fast forward, we end up finding out that there's the Jedi are like, they find this former Padawan. They're like, hey, why'd you kill this person? And that Padawan's just like, huh?
Yeah.
Pardon? And so they bring her in and they question her and all that kind of stuff. And, fast forward, basically they find out that that there's twins. And we got in episode 3, for some reason, Disney loves their episode 3 flashbacks. I swear, every single episode 3 has been a flashback. So we get an episode 3 flashback. We find out that there are twins. They're part of a witch cult, similar to what's her name? Mother Talzin.
Yep. The Night Sisters. Kind of along those lines, not exactly the same line. Don't know if they're from the same planet initially or not. Just know that this witch coven had to like move to this planet from their original home.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah, and there's like this odd thing like that these like between these girls, which we don't really find out till a little bit later. Oh no, we did find it in episode 3. Like their midichlorian, their M counts, as they won't say the word midichlorian anymore.
Which is so funny. They just call it M count. I've noticed that in like the last couple Star Wars projects, and it's so funny because like anyone who's like a Star Wars fan who even kind of knows Star Wars would know what M count means.
Yes.
So it's like, do the Star Wars think they're trying to trick people by not saying the word like midichlorian to just forget about that completely, or like do people just genuinely like M count more?
I don't know. It's funny.
I don't know why, but yeah, it's so funny each time I'm here because I'm like, say the word, say it,
say it, you coward. So they test them for midichlorians because one it's May and Osha are the two twins. And May was, I think we find out that May is the one who's killing people. Osha was the one who, who's the former Padawan.
Yep.
And so during the flashback they get their M counts checked. They're like really high, but they're like exactly the same.
I don't think we learned about that episode. I think we
was
learned
was that later? Was that in the second flashback?
Yeah. Okay. I think so.
But anyway, they both have really high M counts, and so they test them, and then only Osha wants to go with the Jedi. She wants nothing to do with the Coven. To be honest, she didn't nothing wanted to do with her sister. Obviously, this is spoilers. We've established this. It's only been out for a week though, so wow, we're actually talking about something on time.
Hey, look at that.
And so like we end up finding out how the sister supposedly dies, and the 4 Jedi, how they escape with Osha and whatnot. And then what happened in episode 4?
Episode 4 is when they went to the planet that Kalnaka was staying on.
Kalnaka. Is that the Wookiee?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So where the Acolyte and then the random dude who's been like helping her out,
yes, Jason from The Good Place.
Yep. They're traveling to try to kill Kalnaka here, and then the Jedi along with Osha, who was a former Padawan, are traveling to stop them. And while
I've realized I've mentioned no names at all.
Yeah. We also kind of just skipped over episodes 1 and 2 completely here, but
no, I said I did forget about the other two Jedi, or the other Jedi she killed, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned the one Jedi, and then that they brought Osha in, but I did skip over episode 2, didn't I?
Yeah.
So before we get to episode 4, I guess. Well, I don't remember episode 2 clearly.
That's fine because not necessarily a lot that happened there. I mean, there was some cool beats, like just like the pacing. I really did not like, but that's when you first meet Jason from The Good Place, because he's like,
that's right,
helping her kind of kill these Jedi by like supplying like poisons and information or whatever.
Which she's killing these 4 Jedi because she wants to kill these 4 Jedi. May does, because they were there on the night that her mother died.
Yeah.
Died.
But
we're bad at this. I'm sorry. I'm bad at this.
There's this really funny scene where like the Jedi go to question this mysterious stranger who's been helping her, and he realizes they're Jedi, and he says this really funny line, which is such like a nothing line when you hear it for the first time, but then someone on Twitter kind of posted a little clip of it, or a screenshot and reference something that happened in episode 8 that I was like, oh, that is such clever writing. So the reasons that I love the Acolyte so much is because when things happen and you go and look back, you realize things were there that you would not have noticed before at all. Like that's what makes it a great show. but the Jedi approach him, and he says, "Oh, please don't use like the Jedi like the horse mind erase on me, or whatever
Oh,
you
wow.
Jedi do." Yeah, and
Interesting.
it's really funny that he said that. And for those of you who don't know, haven't seen the show, and want it spoiled by us for some reason instead of watching it, we'll get to that later.
Interesting.
But yeah, so there's the whole confrontation. They almost get May, but then May gets away. That's where Osha finds out that May's still alive, and May finds out that Osha's still alive, and they find out they're on opposite sides here. But yeah, then episode 4.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just realized this. So usually, in theory, the Jedi know when other Force users are around because they can feel them in the Force. They didn't know that with Palpatine because he's really good at hiding it. Do you realize how good, what is it, Chimere, is at hiding himself in the Force because they didn't know it was him?
Yeah.
That just hit me. Wow.
Yeah, they
had no idea.
No, or like they weren't looking at all, because we're in like the era or whatever here where the Jedi are starting to get a little more like sloppy or like arrogant or like in like whatever the right word is here, where they're starting to like take things for granted that like they are the supreme force in the galaxy, and like they're the good and they're the right, and like there's nothing for them to really look out for in a major way. But yeah, because in episode 4, so they're both walking to like find Kelnaka, and what May realizes here is like May's like, hey, I'll just go turn myself over to him. I don't want to be doing this anymore at all, killing these Jedi, whatever here. This is so much more complicated now that Osha's alive. So she traps the stranger and goes to rush off to Kelnaka here. She gets to him and finds he's dead. He's been killed, and she's like, oh no. And then the Jedi show up and they're like, May, you're in there. Come on out. She comes out. Jedi are all standing there lined up. Then she looks behind them terrified, and we see who we know as her master like descending down.
Glides down, yeah.
That was such a cool shot. I've seen so many Star Wars fans complain about shots like that or whatever, and I'm like, you must be joking around here, because that was such a cool visual to have.
Oh, absolutely.
And then he like flings Osha off to the side, and the Jedi all charge him, and then he uses like the Force to like push all of them back, and then that's episode 4 ends.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to.
My heart was racing.
The words.
Yeah.
What I felt like. That felt like such pure Star Wars.
This is the first time, like, and I know, like, we had Maul, and we had Dooku, and we had Sidious. Sidious, like, he showed his power, but like after we already know he was Sidious, which I guess we already know this person's not like a Sith, like a dark side user anyway. But like, I think this is the first time, maybe since Rogue One, where the appearance of someone who's using the dark side is just so makes your heart race, and it's just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you see the power that they wield against, and they're not soldiers like Darth Vader did. They're Jedi.
Yep, and like I'm probably more terrified of him than like any other Sith, because with other Sith, you kind of know their backstory, who you are as like in like who they are. Sorry, as like an audience member here. This guy, you have no idea what his angle is, what is like his motives are, why he's here, what his aim is, and he is scary.
Yeah, that mask. They did a great job designing that mask.
Such a good mask.
It's like almost like straight out of a horror movie mask. Yeah. Like it's kind of got that vibe with the teeth.
Yeah. and like it was one of the things was like you had Darth Vader, kind of the original Sith, like had a mask, and then that kind of just got uh repeated with like uh Kylo Ren, and like a lot of the Inquisitors here have like that similar kind of style and feel, and you see like a lot of masks used with a lot of other mysterious characters, and like it's never felt as original as it has as with the stranger, like that's his official name still, just like how Grogu was the child for a while here. But like his whole look and how he presented himself, even though he still had that like that mask and the traditional kind of Sith look, it looked so unique from what we had seen before.
It felt a little like it felt like an homage also to like to Japanese design.
Oh yeah,
as well, like which is like what the roots of Star Wars is in the first place, right?
It finally felt like a callback because so much of the like original Star Wars series was drawing so much inspiration from like other types of movies, other types of cultures here. And it's been said a million times. What happened a lot with like the sequel trilogy and other stuff is instead of them reaching from like outside movies for influence, they were just drawing influence from other Star Wars films themselves. And that's how we kind of got stuck in this cycle here. It finally felt like with this show, they were back to drawing influence from like outside material, outside cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's where we left it. And then so episode 5, the second block of 4 episodes. The choreography in this, and for the lightsaber battle choreography in this show was spectacular.
It was incredible.
It finally gave me the feeling of the Obi-Wan fight.
Oh yeah.
It was insane, especially as episode 8, but like this one was really good too because all these Jedi like going on one Sith. He handled it like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And like he was brutal too.
Yeah, he had the element of surprise completely. Yeah. Like the Jedi didn't have time to get their grounds or approach this with a clear head. He caught them all off guard here, and like just like the Acolyte as a whole, I think has my favorite lightsaber fights from all of Star Wars here, because every time there's been choreography in the movies, there's always been like a reason or a logic behind it in both the movies and like the animated shows, and I guess like the live action shows as well, although with a lot of the recent ones it hasn't seemed like they've been approaching with that same kind of logic and style here, but even though the fights have been well thought out for previous ones, I think the only one I've super enjoyed has been the one from episode 8 where Kylo and Rey teamed up to fight all of the
all the
thrones,
the thrones.
That one that was neat. I have not enjoyed a lightsaber fight to this degree in the longest time. This I was watching it with Lauren and Reese, who have both been guests on this podcast previously, and when it came up, I don't remember what the death was, but when one of the 2 characters we've been following pretty closely, when they died, when he killed them in the very brutal way he killed them.
Was it the Padawan?
Yeah, it was.
Where he went doom doom doom.
Yep. Yeah, it was that one, or for Yord, where he just snapped.
That was brutal. Where he killed Yord, he was just like. I didn't think they do that. This was the most brutal death I've seen in Star Wars. I think
it
makes in live action.
like it made the show have these like such intense stakes where it's like there's no plot armor here or easy out. It's like this is real. Anyone could die. But like Reese just happened to have his phone out and he took this perfect picture of Lauren and I just like in a state of total shock, just like hands over our mouths and like everything as we stared up at like what was going on
like
on the TV. It felt like such pure Star Wars in a way that I don't think we've gotten in a while.
Absolutely. The first brutal kill, in my opinion, was when, like, I mean, we've seen him like slash across a body and do this. The first brutal kill was when he pulls through. He like takes the lightsaber, puts it through someone, and then force pulls someone onto the end of it. I was like, what the heck is this show? They're not holding back.
Yeah.
And then,
because it was the thing of like all the Jedi have this very like distinct style of like fighting and combat that they're used to, that they train in. This guy was breaking all of the rules, just really using the Force in his own style that the Jedi were not prepared for whatsoever.
I don't know if you've seen any videos about it, but like that's always talked about in lore and stuff like that for Star Wars. It's the 7 forms of lightsaber fighting, and the 7th form
I've seen some stuff.
Like I don't remember what it's called, but it was like developed specifically to fight the Sith because they didn't use lightsabers the way like they were like so powerful and so like chaotic in the Force. So like they developed this one, and then after they defeated the Sith, they banned it. So something that they were saying is that and I don't know how people recognize this, but people like Star Wars way more than I do, and I like Star Wars a lot. But they were saying that he was using that 7th form.
Wow.
Like a little bit more chaotic, and they were actually likening it to like more of a trained Kylo Ren.
Interesting.
Which was really cool to kind of see. But that 5th episode, there's a lot of really brutal death, and I think the Yord one was the most brutal, where he just he catches them. I don't know, like he catches them, he like extinguishes his lightsaber, grabs his head, and just.
Yeah, and one more thing that like I'll add here, just because we breezed over it completely, because we got so used to like who the character was like the whole time, but like it's this mysterious masked stranger. At some point. Jackie, I think, is the one who like breaks his helmet. His helmet falls off, and you see it is the same stranger who's been traveling with the whole time, which I saw some people getting upset because it's like, oh yeah, but that was like so obvious here. They could have done a better reveal for that. I don't agree
Absolutely
with that. It felt very satisfying to me, because there have been so many theories every time there's like a main character in a show that has a mask on who you don't know who it was. With the Bad Batch, there was CX2. Everyone was like, oh, it's Tech. It's gonna be Tech here. With the Inquisitor kind of character from Ahsoka, everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be like Ezra or someone like that. And there's always so much speculation. And then every time it's turned out to be no one at all. It's just genuinely this like new masked character. It was very satisfying, I felt, to finally have there be some payoff as a mask, and the mask is taken off and you know who it is. So that I liked. And also we did forget to mention as well, in the lightsaber fight, him using the mask not just as a defense for him, but an offensive weapon that he used
in his cuffs.
Short out. Yeah, that he used to short out the Jedi's lightsabers, further catching them off guard here, was such a genius play.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Beskar, but it's from Legends. It's called I think it's called Cortosis is the element, is like the metal. And so it was used in Legends to short lightsabers. Yeah. And so I like how they're bringing like stuff in like little bits and pieces here from Legends.
And that's the thing
that was such a smart move for that character.
It absolutely boggles my mind too, of like, this is something that like old like hardcore Star Wars fans have been like asking for forever. They're like, bring more stuff in from Legends, have more of a respect from Legends here, and they get a director, show creator finally who has like a very deep, detailed knowledge of Legends and a great way to introduce all of these elements of like, oh, it sucks. Worst Star Wars show ever. I'm like,
this is what you asked for.
Like if the show was the exact same but had a slightly like fighter, more masculine cast and a director with a different name or whatever, you would have eaten this show up. You would have said it's the best Star Wars ever. It's just like they're playing identity politics and playing it based on that, because especially for like the writing of this show, sure, it's not necessarily top tier, but it is exactly consistent with, if not a little better, and I think it's a lot better than like most of the other Star Wars shows we've received here, except for Andor. I'm not counting Andor in that. I count Andor in this whole.
It's like a completely different thing,
from my perspective. But compared to every other Star Wars show, like no other show has felt this satisfying with character beats or plot threads that they set up early on that get brought back up towards the end of the show here.
Yeah.
Well, these characters feel so rich, so detailed, and just it just felt incredibly satisfying.
Yeah. I didn't. So I was in China when most of this show was coming out. Like at least I think it was like 5, 6, and 7 came out when I was in China.
Oh wow!
Or traveling back. And so like I wasn't like following along with all like the negativity or like anything, because like when I'd wake up, all that stuff had happened, and so like I would just like scroll through, like I don't want to see anything. Like, okay, good, I'm at the bottom of my feed.
Yeah.
So, like I didn't like get any of that. Like I kind of knew people didn't like it just based on like the few snippets I saw of like my creators I follow. It's like, this hate for this and that. And so like I wasn't like immersed in it like I think people here were while they were watching it in the US. So like I got to enjoy it.
Very nice.
So, but yeah, so anyway, the next 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was just so good. It's probably the second best in this series, I think. Episode 5 was so good. What happened in 6? 7 was the flashback.
What was 6? The only other thing of note to call out in 5 is May knocks Osha unconscious because Osha's like, hey, I'm not gonna go with you because you're like a bad person here. And May's like, no, you don't understand. They didn't tell you the whole story. And she's like, I don't care about the whole story here.
This is important to episode 6. That's why I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, May knocks Osha unconscious. May has longer hair, so she does like the samurai thing of like cutting off her hair with like her lightsaber here, so it's the same length as Osha's, and then like swaps places here. Which there's also some complaints about, like people are like, oh, who would use a lightsaber to cut off their hair or whatever, ignoring that it's a callback to samurai movies, and also ignoring that canonically that's what happens with like the Padawans,
yeah,
little hair thing. So anyway, I thought that was sick.
Star Wars fans are consistent, they're consistently inconsistent.
Yes.
If nothing
so then May ends up going with Soul, pretending to be Osha, and then a stranger finds Osha, realizes what May has done, and takes Osha back with him, because he was trying to like kill May for majority of that fight, because he's like, you.
Yeah, he was about to stab her in the face with a lightsaber.
Yep. So anyway, episode 6 spends a lot of time focusing on May and Soul and Osha and the stranger here. The only thing of note was just that like the stranger is kind of like this chill, relaxed guy who's like, hey, let's just spend some time together. I'll kind of tell you where I'm coming from. You kind of tell me what's going on with you. And he like shows her like the helmet, kind of how it works.
Yes.
We see a little bit of the Jedi temple. they're trying to figure out what's going on now with Soul's mission, because Soul was the only surviving Jedi. All the rest were killed. You can kind of tell there's something else going on there, but they basically fly to try to rendezvous with Soul. Soul at the last minute changes his mind, or I don't really know what his motivations were entirely, but he takes May away back to May's home planet. And Osha, and I loved this bit so much, but like Osha and the stranger end up following them, going back to May and Osha's home planet as well. Episode 7, you have this really cool flashback where it's the exact same time frame as the original flashback, but this one you see from the Jedi's perspective instead of May and Osha's perspective, and what they kind of chose to show and neglected to show. And like the first flashback, the opposite is kind of shown here.
Yep.
And it was very cool and very satisfying. And there was so much stuff that like, there was a lot of stuff that I caught and a lot of stuff that I did not catch, but then people pointed it out on Twitter, like the parallels, what was really going on in that time frame. And again, whoever wrote the script did such a good job. Like that's such intentional storytelling, and it felt so refreshing.
And I think the big thing to take out of episode 7 was that Soul did kill their mother.
Yes.
In that flashback, and he willingly let May die. Or fall. I guess he didn't know she was going to die, but he willingly let go of May that he could save Osha. And
that was such a funny scene where it's like it establishes he cannot tell them apart for like the entire time. And so he like runs up there and he sees them both standing, and it has to cut back and forth between them saying like May, Osha, like several times for him to be like, okay, I can't save them both. I'm going to intentionally save Osha here.
Yeah.
That was so wild. And like I mean, like it was so funny to like see it, but like it was done very, very well. Even though I didn't really like episode 3, because like I couldn't really get a feel for the stakes or what they were trying to say or whatever here. Episode 7 delivered completely, and it made me really, really, really appreciate how the show started.
Well, and we also got a look. Like in episode 3, we skipped over this because really it's not that important to the story. Was when the one Padawan that was with them got not possessed, but like taken over by the witches. And then we saw that again in this episode from his point of view and what actually happened. Yeah. And it wasn't as sinister as it seemed,
but
until they took over. What was the Wookiee's name?
Kalnaka.
Until they took over Kalnaka. And that was a wild fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's just 3 Jedi against a Wookiee who's possessed by dark magic or dark force users.
And like it also goes to kind of show or kind of explain why the 4 Jedi were like in like the spaces they were in like the years following here. It's like you had the guy who was at the time a Padawan, got his mind taken over. What he's done in the time since is like he made his mind a fortress here, where he had like the Force meditation thing where like no one could penetrate him, take over his mind ever again.
When he didn't speak either.
Yep.
Because his mouth got knocked in by a Wookiee.
And then you had like the Wookiee who was taken over and like became like a mad claw. I think someone said it was called in like Legends, because he used his claws to like harm somebody else, which goes against the Wookiee code big time here. And then you had the woman whose name I
can't remember,
forget, but like she arguably did the most damage out of all of them, but like it wasn't as chaotic as like all of the others, but like she kind of like she like organized it. She like protected all of them, that kind of carried on to like who she was during her confrontation with the May here, and then you had Soul, who's just in denial about doing anything wrong, and that's why he kind of was the most normal out of all of them. But yeah, and it's just like the parallels between episode 7 and episode 3, where in like episode 3, it's like the girls are told that like this like philosophical thing of like, oh, you need to sacrifice part of yourself here, and then when the girls are like talking to the Jedi, they're like, oh yeah, we need to sacrifice ourselves, and just those little like bits of like a miscommunication like build up perfectly. And it's like through the initial frame you kind of think, oh, this is May's fault maybe, but there's like something else going on or whatever, and you see it from the Jedi's perspective, like, oh, now I have the whole story. It's all the Jedi's fault. And it's just because they overstepped their bounds completely.
Soul did what was against the orders of the Jedi Council, and so it happened. I mean, we see that happen in episodes 1, 2, and 3, the main Skywalker saga. I mean, basically the whole thing. I mean, we shouldn't train this Jedi. Why not? Well, because of this, and that, or this kid because he's too old. Blah blah blah. A lot of people were actually speculating that Osha is the reason they didn't want to train Anakin, because she was too old, and so he was a little. He was about the same age or a little older. But I thought that was an interesting little connection they made there. But yeah, it was real. Episode 7 was like, it was really, really good. Added a lot of context to episode 3, episode 1, 2, and then we get to the season. Is there anything else you want to say about episode 7?
I don't think so.
So then we get to the season finale, episode 8, which was, I think, highly anticipated. At least amongst people who liked it a lot. And it's basically the confrontation between Osha and May and Soul, and also when did we learn Kymir's name?
We learned like episode 2, but like, well, that was like the name he was.
He was like fake using.
You later find out that's a fake name completely, but they never gave his actual name. So
gotcha. So people just call him Kymir.
Yeah. Yep.
So we get this confrontation. I don't think much else happens in this episode. But before we get into that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like at the very actually, you say what you want to say first.
Okay, so and I told you this early after everything wrapped up. So I'm a big High Republic guy. I've been big on the High Republic since it came out, and we pretty much been doing our podcast in that span of time. My favorite character in those books is Vernestra Rowe, who I was so excited to see in this show. She is. Is she the head of the Jedi Council? I couldn't tell.
No, like she's not involved at the Jedi Council at all. She's just like the head of like a committee.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I love Vernestra Rowe. She's one of my favorite characters. She was in I think 2 or 3 children's books, and then she was in the middle grade books, and now she's in the middle grade books again. I hated everything she was in this show. It didn't make any sense from where we left off in the books. Now maybe it does in the newer book. I haven't read that one yet, but from where we left off, it was actually a short story called Tales of Light and Life. It was written by I want to say it was written by the original author who came up with her, or like who like wrote her originally. That's not how she is in the books, and I really did not like her character in the show, and I really need to know why she is the way she is. And obviously, I feel like maybe it has something to do with the stranger, because I mean, obviously, not obviously, but like later on in episode 8, like she feels him in the Force and she recognizes him.
Yeah, which was big.
And so obviously there's some issues there. And
he did not want to be recognized by her either.
He did not. He was like, oh shit, we got to go.
Yeah.
something happened, and I need to know what happened. Maybe they're going to address it because there's still 6 more books left, I think, to come out for the High Republic, because they're still on phase 1, or like the first 3 of the 9 they released, or maybe there's 12 in this one. I don't know. There's still a lot of time left, and I know something's going to happen in that span of time, but I have to know what happens, why she went from, and granted, she's only 16 in the books because she's like the youngest Jedi Master ever. I need to know what happened. I did not like the way her character was done in the show at all.
Yeah, and like I've noticed that as kind of a common thread here too, because like I obviously do not read Star Wars books. At least I haven't read Star Wars books in a while here. But both with Thoron in the Ahsoka show and Venestra here, it's like I've liked both of those like on screen interpretations, but with how they were in the books, according to you, 2 different characters completely. And like
with Vern, yes, with Thrawn, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But
yeah.
Even to me though, he's even more different than he was in the show, in Rebels. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I just didn't feel the same. But yeah, Vernestra's so different.
Yeah, it's just that it kind of like brings up the question here. It's like obviously there's a lot of appeal to Star Wars. Like book fans of like saying, oh, there's a character that you loved in the book, let's put them on the screen, let's bring them in to live action here. But when they're kind of written and acted in a way that's not compatible with who they are in the book, it's like, should Star Wars stop trying to do that here, or is there a way to go about it better?
I also, this is weird, and I probably shouldn't hate it for this reason. So Vernestra is originally written by Justina Ireland, who's a Black woman. And so for whatever reason, in my head, Vernestra is a Black woman, even though she's an alien. And so when I saw that she was played by a white woman, I was like, I don't like this for some reason, because it's just my own headcanon. That's just like, this is how she is. And like when I saw her when it wasn't like that, I'm like, this feels wrong. So that's kind of one thing that just kind of set me off. And then again, the way she acted. But they did include a couple of cool things from the books, which one was the lightsaber whip. Which she actually developed in the book. Like she had a regular lightsaber and then made it into a whip. And then actually there's 3. Well, the other one was a couple times that they mentioned, oh, you're going to hyperspace, but don't you get like sick in the hyperspace?
Yeah.
So she actually has hyperspace visions.
Oh.
Which is really cool part of the books. Is that when she goes into hyperspace, she'll get like she'll like fall asleep and she'll have visions.
Interesting.
Which may come into play later on. Maybe it came into play already in the show. I don't know. And then the third thing is she's already fought a Padawan who's starting to fall to the dark side.
Interesting.
And it happened in the first book. I think it was in the first book she was in. Dude, I'm telling you. And these are like the middle grade books, like the children's book. They're so good, dude. Oh god, they're so good. Vernestra. I hate the way they did Vernestra. I hate it. Also, in the book, she's called Vern, even though she doesn't like it. But anyway, also she has like hair in the book, which that was weird.
Oh.
She didn't have hair in the show, but I guess that part doesn't matter as much. But anyway, Anyway, sorry, I had to go my quick Vernestra rant.
Yeah, no worries at all. That was great to have. But for episode 8, one of the things at the very start, because I'm pretty sure it's the start here. Osha has a vision of killing Soul, and as soon as she said that, I was like, "Holy cow, that's not May you're seeing. You are seeing you."
So you knew that right off the bat.
Yeah, as soon as that was said, because I was like, "There's no way." Just like the way the direction was.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see. I understand. Because okay,
the way this story was going, I clocked that immediately. I had to bite my tongue because I was watching it with so many other people at that point. But like I flagged that immediately, and just the whole time they were on the planet, especially when May and Osha were interacting, it's like all of their new experiences. Even though it was like Osha who was like on the light side and May who was like on the dark side, when they have that confrontation, May's in an outfit that is all white. She's approaching in this very unoffensive, very restrained stance, trying to just talk to Osha. And Osha is dressed in all black, is approaching with this like chaotic energy here. And like the parallels, it was just so good. Like it felt like it felt so deep and significant. Like just these very intentional choices, which is other Star Wars shows for the most part haven't really seen a lot of intentional choices like that.
And very Marvel, like it felt very early Marvel, you know, in terms of that, because like Marvel would like set up little things here and there, and then it would eventually pay off. It kind of felt like that a little bit.
Yep. Very much so. And while that was going on, the confrontation that Soul and the Stranger had, that lightsaber fight, super cool as well. Loved those moves, especially how he like took like the small blade.
Shoto blade, I think it's called.
Yeah. And it's like that was apparently
again another callback to Japanese.
Yeah,
Japanese inspiration.
Yeah, I actually think it was Filipino culture specifically because that was something that he had requested that like they add.
You're right. Yeah,
I think, and like there's just so much behind the scenes stuff that makes this this show great. But like anytime like there's that scene where they're like floating down from the bridge and just it was so visually interesting in a way.
The bridge scene was cool too.
Yeah, like the lightsaber fights in Ahsoka, like I enjoyed Ahsoka as a show. My previous ranking was like Andor and then Ahsoka and then whatever else. But like the lightsaber scenes in Ahsoka were just not interesting hardly at all. There were some cool moments, there were some cool beats, but like I just didn't vibe with them.
I would say the same for Obi-Wan.
Like I'd hoped. Huh?
I'd say the same for Obi-Wan too.
Yeah, yep. And here's the lightsaber choreography was so good.
So good.
It was so good and so impactful. And then when Osha finds out that Soul was the one
to kill the best part.
her mom, just I can't remember like beat for beat or what order things happened in, but seeing her bleed a lightsaber crystal in live action.
The bleeding of the kyber crystal was incredible.
Oh,
like she's just
man.
like she grabs him by the with the force, and like as he's admitting, it's like I have this so much love for you, Osha, and he just like and he just starts choking, and then you're just like, who the heck? And then like Osha approaches him and like she raises her hand and you're just like, oh my god. And then that's when you start seeing that kyber crystal bleed.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
And even just the small details here of like the first wave of complaints I saw online, people were like, oh, you can't just bleed a lightsaber crystal, you have to have like direct contact with it in order for it to bleed. And then but then like someone posted a screenshot and you zoom in and you see that when Soul's lightsaber was damaged, part of the crystal came out of the hilt and was making contact with her hand directly. And I'm like, that is so smart. There's not anything like if I was making the show, I would not have thought to like go to that length to do it. And like of course after that people were complaining, it's like, oh, the lightsaber can't be damaged to that degree because it would explode if you tried to like turn on. It's like, says who? You really cannot look at a lightsaber in real life because they don't exist in a real life here. So it's just that's just people who want to complain about things, complaining about things. That was sick. Like
it was awesome.
what I believe in, like for Dungeons and Dragons and like everything, is like the cool of cool, like surpasses all else. George Lucas has been quoted many times saying like he did not care about canon whatsoever. He actively changed what was canon like several times over. It's like when Star Wars fans get too caught up on canon, you lose so much of what makes Star Wars great.
Luke and Leia kissed in episode 5, like, and then they were brother and sister after that. We didn't know that. That wasn't known.
George Lucas didn't know that at the time, I'm pretty sure. Or he did, and whatever, who cares? But, yeah, so it's just like the story gets changed so many times here, and it's like this truly felt like Star Wars in a way I never thought I would like fully experience ever again here. Yeah. This was such a great show, and this has earned the number 2 live action spot without question. Andor, I think, will always have number 1 here, depending on
season 2, yeah.
On how season 2 is, because obviously the Mandalorian I did hold in very high esteem, because season 1 I think was great. Season 2 was good, but it fell off towards the end, I think, and season 3 was a nightmare completely. Yeah, it brought the Mandalorian so far down in my ranking.
What about season 2.5?
Yeah, all right. Something the actor who had played Boba Fett had said is like, for the Mandalorian season 4, if that ever gets made, because they're doing like the
movie, yeah.
like the movie now. Boba Fett, the actor, had said, "Hey, I want an episode of his season 4 because he took an episode of my season," and obviously, I love that so much. I would want that to happen. Just make this more chaotic. That has my full support.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and then on that same thread as the Kyber crystal, I'm watching it bleed, and as she ignited it, and the blade turned red.
That was sick.
So cool. But yeah, and then that's when the Jedi showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then May and Osha and the stranger all get together. And they're like, we all can't escape. Something has to happen. And so May and Osha are just like, fine, we'll leave each other. And it's like, well, what if they're going to ask her about her, what and whatnot. And so then, as you said, it brings up the thing about using the Force to erase her memory.
Which, that's so cool that was brought up in episode 2, and it was such a throwaway line that I would never flag that in a million years.
Yeah. And then so they do, and the Jedi then they disappear. The Jedi get there and whatnot. They bring her in, they question her. She has absolutely no idea what's going on. And then I think it finishes on. No, go ahead.
Sorry. That was the other thing that needs to be called out is Venestra finally makes her way over there, and because of the unique force power that she has, that's only shared by, I think, Cal Kestis, and I think Ahsoka has it to some degree. Of the characters we know, is just the ability to sense force echoes or force memories or whatever they're called. She's able to piece together from the scene what happened 15, 16 years ago, whenever that was, when Sol and Kelnaka and all of them were there, what all transpired. So she pieces it together. She sees Sol lying there dead, and that, coupled with her knowledge that one of her old Padawans, I think is what the assumption is out there as that leads her to kind of lie to the rest of the Jedi and the senators. And she says, hey, this was done by Sol. It was all him. He was doing it to atone for whatever had taken place. No, not atone. He was doing it to cover up what happened before, but then he was killed or whatever. It's etc. etc. So that keeps all of the events of this season a secret, which is again what a lot of people are concerned about.
That
Whatever that was, blah blah
Calmundi.
blah.
What's his name?
Who?
Calmundi. What's that Jedi's name?
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, the guy with the head.
The guy
I,
with the
I
Keanu
don't.
Mundi.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, people were all up in their arms because he was in it.
There
and, like,
was
people were like, "Oh, but his birthday's not the blah blah blah."
there was
Shut
a
up.
riot online.
Oh
I
my
don't know if
god,
like
they were so
we're
annoying.
here or abroad, but like I mean, I could not escape that.
That was so annoying. They were like, "Oh, but it doesn't make any sense. The species is not old compared to," and the people were like, "Compared to what?" Oh, but Legends,
Yeah.
but Legends was never canon.
Yeah, because like especially I think for all of the original trilogy, it was released and it was in canon that there was a 2-year age difference between Luke and Leia. There was a canonical 2-year age difference between them up until the prequel trilogy. Yeah. When they were like, we can't make that work, actually. So yeah, it's like those dates you
people are
kind of got to assume as the universe grows that kind of garbage stuff just kind of change because who cares?
Well, they were doing the same thing with what's his name? We'll get to him in a second. But anyway, it ends right with I think they went back to the planet they were on originally. With the stranger and Osha holding the lightsaber together and looking out into the distance, as people do.
Yeah, that was.
But then there was more.
Yeah, there was post credit scene or mid credit scene, or was it like?
I think it's just like right after that.
Or the credits. All right,
I think
okay,
it was
yeah.
before the credits, and so we see
remember.
our good friend Vernestra.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Our favorite character, who we all love. She's very consistent with the books.
Yes. She walks into some chambers, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. She's in her formal wear, her formal robes and such. Mm-hmm. She walks in and says, Master, I'm going to need your help. And who do we see?
Hands down, to Puppet Yoda's ears.
Who do you see? Puppet Yoda.
Not even CGI. And dude, I felt like such a nerd. I like cheered.
That's what made you feel like a nerd? It was that?
There was so many great moments in the show, and just knowing what the potential is for a season 2 here. Like, one of the things I'll say is like this story did not feel like open-ended or like there were notes that like need to be continued. There need to be answers for like. A lot of shows end and you're like, okay, well, there obviously has to be more because that was not satisfying at all. This felt very satisfying, but it got me very excited for a potential season 2.
Yes, it was satisfying, but I want more.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly. It definitely left me wanting more. Yeah, so I actually saw an interview recently from the show's creator, Leslie something.
Yeah,
last name.
I remember.
But it said that like she was like, I will not shoot in front of a screen. I want practical effects, and I want I want like real sets, practical effects, and I want puppets. Yeah, even like the little creatures on the islands and stuff like that in different places. Except I think maybe the bugs, they were all puppets. So
that is fantastic. I want more of that.
Me too.
In my opinion, I know there's a lot of stuff that the prequel trilogy did with CGI that was great here, but for the most part, puppets is what Star Wars needs to have. That's so much of the charm.
Agreed. I like how like we didn't see the very first clone in live action till Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah,
it was all CGI.
Oh wait, yep, yeah.
In the prequels.
Yeah.
Like it was technically live action, but it was like CGI.
Kenobi for that, because I was thinking of Ahsoka, where we see more of the clones. I know at least Captain Rex was genuine there, but there is a clone that we do see in Kenobi.
Yeah, it was when what's his name was trying to. Oh no, maybe it was no. I take that back. It was the Mandalorian season 2 when we saw the baby the Grogu flashback. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was the first time we ever saw one in live action, and they were in 3 movies, at least 2 movies. But I just think that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah. So overall, Acolyte, I loved it. I loved every second of it, except for Nestra.
The only other thing to note is the one cameo or Easter egg thing we haven't talked about yet is when the Stranger and Osha were leaving the planet he was on. We do catch a very quick glimpse of Plagueis.
Of Darth Plagueis. And with this is where a lot more of like lore and stuff like that kind of like branches out. Because there's really only supposed to be 2 Sith. Like it's the rule of 2, Darth Bane, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff regarding that because like in the Clone Wars, there was obviously a lot going on
bunch of assassins
there of Count Dooku having Ventress and then going for Savage and Darth Maul returning, so that got complicated. And obviously we have the original trilogy where it's like both Darth Vader and Palpatine were like going after Luke as a potential new apprentice here, and they were both kind of aware of the other's plans, kind of. So
and then we had all the what are they called, the assassins?
The Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors, yeah.
Which Palpatine was apparently fine with all of those.
Yeah,
for some reason.
So it's interesting to see because technically in this timeline, Darth Tenebris, who trains Plagueis, is alive also because there's 2 of them.
Oh, interesting.
And so
now is that
rule of 2
something that's still canonical here, or is
we don't know? That's just what assumed is that obviously that he has a master, and from Legends it's Darth Tenebris.
Interesting, because I was approaching this like Plagueis would be like the master now, and like the Stranger is the apprentice.
So that's where a lot of like the cool stuff is happening. And I sent you that video, I think.
Yeah,
I can't exactly remember what it was. But a lot of people are thinking that Osha and the Stranger are going to start the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, I have.
And they're just being watched by the Sith, the true Sith.
Interesting.
So, okay. There's a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of different ways that this could go, and it's all really cool. I'm very excited to see what happens with it. I hope we get a
really like it. Yeah.
I hope Disney's just like, yeah, I know you guys didn't like it, but I don't care about you. I care about like this podcast. They liked it, so we have to make a season 2.
Yeah, and now that you have mentioned it here, there have been a lot of shows that people like hate that just because of the amount of people who've like hate watched the show. They're like, the numbers are good. Let's crank out a season 2 here. So it definitely sounds like a lot of people have watched it here. So I'm hoping that Disney will just ignore the comments from the incredibly vocal minority here who had whatever kind of garbage problems with it here and just make a season 2 because there's just
the potential.
Keep the same writers, keep the same team, keep tying in stuff from Legends here. This was great, and I so badly want to see where this goes. Hopefully we can get a season 2, but even if we don't here, obviously Star Wars has never shied away from mixing movies and shows and books here. So if we don't see this on screen, maybe there is a canonical continuation of this story that we'll see at some point somewhere else.
Yeah. And then I'll also love a lead up to what happened with Vernestra and or the Stranger. So so I think that about wraps up my thoughts on the Acolyte, which I didn't think we'd have enough to talk about, and clearly we did.
Oh yeah. So I knew we would. I never had any doubt in us at all.
Anything else? You good?
Yeah, I I think that's all from me here.
Cool. I just wanted to just take the last couple of minutes here. I saw a movie yesterday.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's rare that I go to the movie theaters and I watch a movie, but for whatever reason, this movie was calling my name. It's a movie called Long Legs. Have you seen ads for that at
I've
all?
heard of that. Does that have, I want to say, Nicolas Cage for
Yes, it
some
does.
reason? Okay.
Yeah. So I saw like 1.5 minute ad.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that ad a bunch, but and so here I was going in. I was like, oh, cool, murder mystery movie, sweet.
Mhm.
Didn't know anything past that, and so I walk in. It's rated R.
Gotcha.
I'm like, okay, that's weird. There must be a lot of violence in this movie. So it's a horror movie.
That is what I had heard, I think.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
It was extremely satanic, and there were dolls, which I hate dolls. Had I known that, I wouldn't have gone and seen it.
Very interesting.
Nick Cage is phenomenal in it. He can play anything. It was scary shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, it wasn't scary. It was just super creepy, and they did a really good job of like building up the creep factor, which is what I like in my horror movies. I don't like the jump scares. Like jump scares, like they'll get me once, and then after that, it's like, is that all you got? Is that all you're doing to be scary here? But it was super creepy. And there were a pretty good amount of plot twists. I saw the one, I don't know if it was a plot, this wasn't a plot twist, but I did see it was at the very beginning of the movie. They're going through all these cases, and like there's like this very obvious theme with these cases, and then they mention this one thing, and I was like, oh, this is gonna happen. So like I called the very last scene from the beginning of the movie.
Oh wow!
But the twists and turns of how we got there was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I did not turn any lights off yesterday.
Gotcha.
But it's really good. It's a really good movie. Highly recommend it if you like gory, satanic horror movies. But if you don't, then I would avoid this movie like the plague.
Yeah, like, and it's kind of that weird line to walk here where like every now and then I'll try to go into a movie blind for the most part, or I'm not like, I don't know a lot about the movie going in except for like a trailer.
Yeah.
And most time that works out pretty well. Most times I see a movie and have an absolute blast. One of the movies I saw recently called Kinds of Kindness. It was made by like a director, creator, whatever, who had made a movie before that I enjoyed. Had a great cast like Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of actors like that. I was like, yeah, this looks great. I'll go see it. I did not have a good time watching that movie. It was a good movie. It was put together very well, but like the theme of it wasn't kindness. It was more of like different kinds of abuse, and it made for a very uncomfortable watch for like a lot of it. Still glad I saw it. Still glad I gave it a chance here, but like it kind of rocked me for like the rest of like the day. I was like, I cannot do anything else now.
Yeah, I walked out of that movie yesterday, and like people, well, I was by myself too, so like there are people walking out there talking about it. I just like walked out in complete silence, and I got in my truck and I just sat there for a second. I was like, my god, it was like the goriest, most, pardon my friend, it was the most fucked up movie I've ever watched.
Very fun.
Like I was just like, I'm like, who comes up with this shit?
Yeah.
So I was, and then I was like sitting here in my apartment. I was just like, make sure there's a sound. Make sure there's light.
Yeah.
Make sure if I'm gonna leave my apartment now, and like I cannot sit here. And it's not like, and the crazy part was a lot of the stuff took place in the daylight, so like light wasn't gonna help me.
I
always thought that was a good idea for a horror movie. Like the killer only shows up in the light, or like the demon or paranormal. Yeah, it was crazy. It was so messed up, but I enjoyed it. It was weird, and they left it on a cliffhanger, and I may have to go see a second one.
Cool. Well,
oh god, it was so messed up. Oh
wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
two most recent movies I've seen in theaters here has been Kinds of Kindness and Inside Out 2. So two
very different movies.
Kinds of movies here. The next one I'll probably end up going to see is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, me too.
Coming out this weekend, so we'll see where it falls on the spectrum here of long legs Kinds of Kindness, Inside Out 2.
I don't. Well, two things. One, I almost went and saw Twister yesterday.
Oh,
and about literally 5 minutes in the movie, I was like, man, I should have gone and saw Twister because 5 minutes in, someone's head got blown out with a shotgun. So that was fun. There's so much blood. Sorry. And then two, did you see that? I mean, this is just some Facebook thing. I don't know if it's actually real. Apparently, Ratatouille is coming out.
A sequel to Ratatouille?
Yes, but it's Ratatouille, and so I'm saying they stole our thing.
I have not seen anything.
It was a weird Facebook post my mom sent me, so like I doubt it's real.
So yeah, probably not. But they need to, and it needs to be a crossover with Inside Out.
Then they have to pay us money because we came up with it. It's like, oh, we made this movie. It's like, well, but we came up with the title, Inside Out of Tui. Actually, we did it twice. We have Inside Out of Tui and Inside Out of Tui.
I saw a tweet from someone on Twitter who's like, I saw Twisters recently, and like I opted for like the one of the premium formats, like the 4DX. I'm pretty sure it's called here, and they were like, and what they said is it made like a very like average kind of the mill movies into one of the greatest movie going experiences I've ever had in my entire life. So like I've never seen a movie in a 4DX before, but Twisters might be the one.
I've seen one in the Adobe one.
Yeah.
The Dolby, I can't remember what the whole thing, the Dolby experience is called, but that was pretty cool. I don't remember what movie it was. Maybe Finding Dory 2 or Finding Dory.
Very nice.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, Twister probably a good idea to see that kind of movie in. How was Inside Out 2? Was it good?
Oh yeah, like I liked Inside Out 2 a lot for like for like the story here, the characters, how they presented these stakes and all that. It was something that like felt kind of high stakes, but not like so high stakes that it takes you out of the immersion completely. There was no like catastrophic like oh the world's gonna end type like Marvel movie nonsense here we get with every film. The only thing that like I didn't like was like psychologically speaking not super accurate to like how the brain actually works here, which is like going back to the first one. It did end up being surprisingly psychologically accurate to like how all of that works. But in terms of like how people going through changes feel here, it was spot on. And there was something that like came out like as they were making the movie, as they were putting the script together, as they were animating it. There was a panel of teenage girls who they'd like continue to invite back to the studio, and they'd like review stuff with them. They're like, hey, is this accurate to like how you feel, to like how you experience events and all that? And they would say yes or no, and it kind of helped make it like very realistic. And watching it felt very realistic.
Nice. That's awesome.
And there were some great callbacks to like the first movie as well. I won't spoil them, but like all in all, like it was a surprisingly fun watch.
It's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Last thing
Mhm.
is Deadpool and Wolverine the first Marvel movie we've gotten since. What was the last Marvel movie we got?
The Marvels
Oh, that wasn't that long ago.
was the last one.
Or
Yeah.
was it?
It was last November, so it's been like 8 months.
That feels like it came out in March.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I did not realize it's been that long. Okay. So it was 8 months. I think it's I don't know if it's the longest we've gone without a Marvel movie.
Now we
Maybe
have
it's the
gotten
longest
some
in non-pandemic.
shows. Like we have gotten some shows from Marvel in the meantime here. So it's not like 8 months since the
What was
last
the last show?
Marvel project. Was it Echo or was there
Echo?
one
That ended in December.
since then? Huh?
Echo ended in December.
No, it ended in January because like basically
Yeah.
all of
No,
the
they
episodes
released it all at once.
dropped. Yeah, they released it all in. It was like January like 7th or January 17th,
Oh, okay.
somewhere around then. It was What If that dropped in December here.
Still haven't watched it.
It was fine.
I forgot actually. I forgot it was there.
Yeah. They basically like released What If season 2, and then like they released like a trailer or like a clip from What If season 3 immediately afterwards. So What If season 3 is already in the works here.
Lovely, because everyone loves that show.
It does seem kind of like a weird show to keep pushing on with, but like also it is like the lowest stakes show Marvel could ever have, because it's like, who cares what happens in What If?
Also, it's not like the animation studio is doing anything else other than X-Men '97.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, did they do the Spider-Man show again?
Yeah, there's like
never mind.
Spider-Man show, an animated Wakanda show, and one more animated show that are like all in the works here as well. Right. We're supposed to get a lot of information regarding that at
D23?
At either D23 or San Diego Comic-Con. I can't remember which, but there's one that's like specifically supposed to have a lot of information about the animated shows.
Probably D23, because I know that I'm watching D23 for park stuff. That's all I care about for D23, other than some Star Wars and Marvel stuff. But I think we know most of that, at least most of the Star Wars stuff by now. I don't think there's anything new.
We'll just get some more details about like release dates. I know the next Star Wars movie is like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that they're making instead of season 4. Even though it's
also Skeleton Crew up next. I think that's next.
We do have Skeleton Crew. That's supposed to release in
November, December, yeah.
Which
probably get a solid date on that then.
Which Lego set has already been confirmed for that. That's releasing in August. We'll get our first look at the ship and the characters from there.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we've gone on long enough. We're like near 2 hours, which is pretty typical for us. So
yeah. This did feel more like a healthier podcast discussion instead of just news for 2 hours. We're talking about anything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about Madam Web last time, which I almost bought that the other day. Where did I see that?
Oh yeah,
I don't remember. Yeah, I think I saw it like Target right before your wedding. I was like, I should get this for Brennan, and then I just forgot to go back.
Oh, that's fine. That is. You are more than okay with not having up Madam Web for us.
So that's it for this one, everyone. If you like this video, hit subscribe if you really liked it. Give it a like. And tell all your friends.
We will see y'all back in November to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, who knows when we'll make another episode, because I sure as hell don't know. But
this is fun. It's great to see you again. I actually think this was like our 69th episode. I think.
Let me look. Yep, 69. Nice.
Well,
I just call this episode nice.
Well, until we see you again. Hello, chip roasters.
See everyone.